My sister stood at the podium, her smile wide, holding the speech that was supposed to destroy me. Her eyes scanned the wedding guests, landing on me with a look of pure victory. She thought she had won. She had no idea she was about to read her own confession to a room full of people. My name is Bonita Moya, and I'm 28 years old. For my entire life, my older sister Delia has been the golden child. She was prettier, smarter, and always one step ahead of me. She took my friends, my clothes, and even my first boyfriend. I always just let it happen. But when I got engaged to Mark, the kindest man I'd ever met, I saw a new kind of darkness in Delia's eyes. She couldn't stand to see me happy. She pretended to be the perfect maid of honor, helping with every detail of the wedding, all while plotting my downfall. I knew she would try something. A week before the wedding, I accidentally left a draft of my wedding speech on my laptop. It was filled with fake, embarrassing secrets designed to humiliate me. I wrote about failing a grade, getting fired from a summer job, and a silly crush I had. Of course, she took the bait. I watched her through a hidden camera as she copied the file to a flash drive, her face lit with a cruel grin. She thought she was so clever. She had no idea that the speech she stole was a decoy, a trap I had set just for her. Now, at my wedding reception, she cleared her throat, ready to perform her final act of betrayal. I want to share a few words from my sister Bonita's heart, she announced, her voice dripping with fake emotion. The room fell silent. My new husband squeezed my hand, a worried look on his face. He didn't know my plan. No one did. This was between me and Delia. My heart pounded in my chest, a mix of terror and excitement. I watched her unfold the paper, the words I had so carefully written waiting to spring my trap on her. She began to read, her voice smooth at first, sharing the fake, embarrassing stories. A few people chuckled nervously. I saw my mother shift uncomfortably in her seat. Delia was enjoying every second of it, her eyes sparkling with malice as she moved to the next page. Then, her smile began to fade. Her eyes widened as she read the next part of the speech, the part one had written just for her. Her voice caught in her throat, but she had already started the sentence and couldn't stop herself. The words hung in the air, cold and sharp. She looked up from the paper, her face turning pale. The silence in the room was now heavy and sharp, like broken glass. She had just read a secret aloud, not one of my fake secrets, but one of her real ones. A secret I wasn't even supposed to know. What happens next will change our family forever. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss Chapter 2. We'd love to know where you're watching from, so drop a comment below. Delia stared at the paper in horror, her mouth hanging open as she realized what she had just done. She had just told everyone that she was the one who secretly pawned our grandmother's pearl necklace to pay off a gambling debt. A collective gasp filled the ballroom. The music screeched to a halt. Every eye was on my sister, whose face had turned the color of ash. I saw my mother's hand fly to her throat, where the necklace should have been. My father, a man who rarely showed emotion, looked as if he had been struck. The whispers started immediately, spreading from table to table like a disease. Delia had finally been exposed. She crumpled the speech in her fist. "It's a lie," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "She wrote this. Bonita is a liar. She's trying to ruin my life because she's always been jealous." Her eyes pleaded with the crowd, but the seed of doubt had been planted. I remained seated, my hands folded calmly on the table. Why would I write a lie that specific? A lie that I could not possibly prove? The guests were smart. They understood that something was very wrong. The real question on everyone's mind was, how did I know? That truth was my secret weapon. I remember finding the pawn ticket months ago, tucked away in the bottom of her jewelry box. I was looking for an old photo and stumbled upon it by accident. The description was exact: vintage pearl necklace. My heart had shattered. Mom cried for weeks thinking she had lost it. I confronted Delia that night, hoping she would feel shame. Instead, she laughed. Go ahead, tell them, she dared me, her eyes cold as stone. Who are they going to believe? Perfect Delia, or plain, jealous Bonita? You have no proof. She was right. The ticket wasn't enough. So I created the proof. I created a trap she would set for herself, using her own cruelty against her. I knew she couldn't resist the chance to humiliate me. What she didn't know was that her own dark secrets were far more shocking than any lie I could ever invent about myself. Back in the ballroom, Delia was sobbing, mascara running down her cheeks. Daddy, please, she cried, turning to our father. Tell them she's making this up. This was her final move. She had always been his favorite. I braced myself for him to rush to her side and protect her. But he didn't. He walked slowly toward the stage, his face grim. He didn't even look at Delia. He looked directly at me, his eyes filled with a deep, painful understanding. It was a look I had never seen before. What did he know that I didn't? He took the microphone from the stand. The entire room held its breath, waiting for him to defend his precious daughter. But he simply looked out at our family and friends, cleared his throat, and spoke 5 words that changed everything. I was the one who knew. The world stopped. Those 5 words from my father, I was the one who knew, echoed in the silent room. This was not part of my plan. My carefully laid trap was meant for one person. I never imagined my own father was already caught in it with her. Delia's face, which had been twisted with rage, collapsed into pure despair. The one person who always saved her, her protector, had just become her judge. My mother stared at my father, her expression a mixture of confusion and a fresh, deeper kind of hurt. I found the pawn ticket in Delia's car months ago, my father confessed into the microphone, his voice heavy. He wasn't speaking to the crowd anymore, only to my mother. I was so ashamed. I didn't know how to tell you that our daughter was a thief. Then, he did something that made everyone gasp. He reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a small, velvet box. He opened it, and there, gleaming under the lights, was our grandmother's pearl necklace. The lie was truly dead. The proof was right there for everyone to see. I bought it back, he said, his voice thick with regret. I was going to give it back to you, pretend I found it somewhere. I thought I could fix it. I thought I could handle it quietly. He kept repeating one thing over and over. I just wanted to protect this family. But what was he protecting us from? A gambling problem was one thing, but the fear in my father's eyes told a different story. This wasn't just about family shame. This was about something dangerous. There was a bigger, darker secret hiding behind the first one. Delia finally looked up, her eyes wide with terror. Daddy, please don't, she whispered, her voice trembling. It wasn't a plea for forgiveness. It was a plea for him to stop, to keep the next secret buried. For the first time, I felt a chill of real fear. No more secrets, Delia, he said, his voice suddenly cold and hard. The lies stop tonight. He turned back to our guests, his face pale. My daughter didn't just have a gambling debt. She owed money to a man you should never borrow from. My blood ran cold in my veins. This was bigger than a stolen necklace. This was about danger. My father continued. He made threats against our family. He threatened to hurt Bonita if Delia didn't pay him back immediately. The necklace was the only way to keep her safe. I stared at Delia, the sister who hated me, who wanted to humiliate me. She had put my life in danger and never said a word. My father then looked over at my new husband, Mark, his expression filled with grim warning. Mark, he said, your wife is safe now. But I think you should know who your new sister-in-law is really connected to. Every head in the room turned to my new husband, Mark. My father's words hung in the air, a dark cloud over what was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. I held my breath, terrified that this ugly, tangled mess of my family would be too much for him. He looked from my father's grim face to Delia's pathetic, sobbing form on the stage. Then his eyes found mine. In them, I didn't see anger or regret. I saw a steady, quiet strength that calmed the storm inside my own heart. This was the man I married. Slowly, Mark stood up. He walked calmly through the silent tables, his footsteps echoing in the tense ballroom. He didn't come to me. He walked directly to the stage, a man moving with purpose. My heart pounded, unsure of what he would do or say. He took the microphone from my father's hand. He didn't look at my sister or my dad. He looked right at me. "Bonita is my wife," he said, his voice ringing with absolute certainty. "Her family is my family now. And her enemies are my enemies." A tear of pure relief rolled down my cheek. He was not running away. He was standing with me. He turned to my father, his expression now hard as steel. "You need to tell me who this man is. Tell me the name of the person who threatened her." My father gave a single, solemn nod. "His name," he said, his voice low, "is Silas Kane." The name meant nothing to me, but a ripple of shock went through some of the older guests. A few men at a back table exchanged worried glances. This name carried weight. At the sound of the name, Delia completely fell apart. "He was going to ruin me," she sobbed from the floor. "He knows about my business. He knows that I didn't get the startup money from the bank." Another secret, tumbling out into the open for everyone to see. Her successful online boutique, the one achievement she never let us forget, was built on another lie. Where did the money come from? My revenge had become an earthquake, shaking the very foundation of our family and revealing cracks I never knew existed. What else was she hiding? The guests had seen enough. They began to leave in quiet groups, their faces a mixture of pity and morbid curiosity. My perfect wedding was now just a stage for a family tragedy. I had won, but it felt like I had lost everything. Then my mother, silent until now, rose from her chair. She walked to the stage with a terrifying calmness, ignoring my sister completely. She took the pearl necklace from my father's hand, clasped it around her neck, and looked into his eyes. "You protected her secret," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "But who was protecting our family from yours?" My father recoiled from my mother's words as if he'd been burned. "What are you talking about, Clara?" he stammered, but the lie was plain on his face. This was a conversation they had started decades ago, and it was now finally finishing in front of us. "The Kanes," my mother said, her voice trembling with a rage that had been buried for years. "You promised me that name would never be a part of our lives again. So why, Robert? Why is our daughter caught in the same trap that destroyed your father?" The name clicked in my memory. The Kanes. It was a name I had heard in hushed, angry whispers when I was a child. A name that was like a curse, a dark shadow from a past I never understood. This wasn't a new enemy. This was an old one. My father's shoulders slumped in defeat. "I didn't know she went to him," he said, his voice weak. "She went to Silas Kane behind my back. She repeated the same mistake that ruined our family all those years ago. She trusted the son of the man who destroyed my father." He took a shaky breath and finally told the whole story. "Our families were partners once. My father and Silas's father built a business together from the ground up." He looked around the empty ballroom, at the ruins of my wedding. They were supposed to be like brothers. "But Silas's father was a snake," he continued, the old pain fresh in his voice. "He cheated my dad, forged papers, and stole the entire company, leaving our family with nothing. He broke my father's spirit. We lost everything because of a Kane." Suddenly, it all made sense. My father's desperate need for secrecy, his shame. It wasn't just about a necklace. It was the return of a nightmare. He was trying to protect us from a monster he thought our family had escaped a generation ago. Delia, still on the floor, looked up. "I thought it would be different," she whispered. "Silas said he wanted to fix the mistakes our fathers made. He said it wasn't a loan, it was an investment in my business. A peace offering between our families." Mark pulled me closer to him, his arm a shield around me. "Men like that don't make peace offerings," he said, his voice dark and serious. They set traps. The debt is paid, so what does he want now? Why are you still so scared? My father looked at Mark, a deep, helpless fear in his eyes. Because it was never about the money, he said, his voice cracking. After I paid the debt, I got a call from Silas Kane. He told me the money was settled, but the business contract she signed was not. He said he owns her now. The words, "he owns her now," fell into the silence of the empty ballroom. The last of the guests were gone. The music had died. All that was left was the wreckage of my wedding day and the five of us, a family broken by secrets. Delia let out a hollow sob. The pride and arrogance that had been her armor for so many years had crumbled away, leaving behind a terrified woman. She had flown too close to the sun, and now she was falling, and she was pulling all of us down with her. "My business," she whispered, her voice empty. "He took my business." That boutique was her entire identity. It was the one thing she had that was truly hers, the source of her power over me, over everyone. And now, it belonged to our family's oldest enemy. We were in a small side room now, away from the cleaning crew. My mother stared blankly at a wall, my father paced like a caged animal, and Delia sat hunched in a chair. It was Mark who finally broke the suffocating silence. He was the calm in our chaos. "Delia," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "The contract. We need to see the contract you signed." His question was not an accusation. It was a plan. He was already looking for a way to fight, a way to protect the family he had married into only hours before. With trembling hands, Delia reached into her purse and pulled out a folded sheaf of papers. She handed the document to Mark, and it felt like she was handing over her life. That piece of paper was the cage she had built for herself, and we were all trapped inside it with her. Mark spread the contract out on a small table. We gathered around as he read through the dense legal text, his eyes scanning each line. The silence stretched on, each second feeling like an hour. We were all waiting for a verdict, for some piece of hope. Finally, he stopped. He tapped a paragraph with his finger. "Oh no," he breathed, his face grim. "This is much worse than we thought." My stomach twisted into a knot. How could it possibly be worse? What else had my sister promised away? "This isn't a normal business loan contract," Mark explained, his voice low and serious. "There's a clause here, a personal collateral clause." He looked at Delia, and for the first time, I saw pity in his eyes. The money my father-in-law paid wasn't the principal. Delia knew exactly what he was talking about. Her face went white with a new, more profound terror. Mark looked from my father to my mother. According to this, if she ever defaulted, Silas Kane wouldn't just take the business. He would take the Moyer family home. The Moyer family home. The words hit me harder than any of the secrets that had come out tonight. It wasn't just a house. It was my entire childhood. It was the smell of my mom's baking, the worn armchair my dad sat in, the window I used to sneak out of as a teenager. My mother made a choked sound, and her knees buckled. My father lunged forward, catching her just in time. He lowered her gently into a chair as she stared into space, her eyes wide with shock. "My home," she whispered. "He's taking my home." She looked at Delia, not with anger, but with a deep, bottomless sorrow. "All for your pride," she said, her voice barely audible. "You have cost us everything." The quiet words were like a knife, and I watched them finally pierce my sister's selfish heart. The guilt was eating her alive. Suddenly, the fire of my revenge felt cold and pointless. I had wanted to see my sister humbled, to make her feel a fraction of the pain she had caused me for years. But I never wanted this. I never wanted to see my parents lose everything. "Is it too late?" I asked Mark, my voice trembling. "Does he own it? Is it over?" The question hung in the small, suffocating room. We were all silently begging for a sliver of hope, a way out of this nightmare Delia had created. Mark read the page again, his expression grim. "Legally, the moment Delia missed her payment, the contract was broken," he explained slowly. That triggered the collateral clause. Your dad paying the money for the necklace didn't undo the default. It was already too late. A wave of despair washed over us. So it was true. Our home belonged to Silas Kane. He was just waiting, like a spider in a web, for the right moment to come and claim it. He was letting us suffer in fear, knowing he held all the power. He's toying with us, my father said, clenching his fists. He wants us to feel exactly what my father felt. Helpless. It was a cruel game, a continuation of a war we thought was long over. Silas Kane wasn't just taking our house. He was taking our history. But then Mark's focus sharpened. He leaned closer to the contract, pointing at a line of tiny print at the very bottom. Wait, he said, a new energy in his voice. There's a deadline. He doesn't have forever to make his claim. We all leaned in, our hearts pounding in unison. Mark looked up from the paper, his eyes locking with mine. The clause says any claim on personal collateral must be filed with the court within a set time from the initial default. He has a window. He paused, then delivered the verdict. He has until the end of the month. We have 23 days. 23 days. The number hung in the air, a fragile lifeline. It wasn't much time, but it was better than nothing. It was a chance to fight back. For the first time since my world fell apart, I felt a tiny spark of hope instead of the cold ash of revenge. But my parents couldn't see it. 23 days to pack up our lives, my mother whispered, her voice defeated. The Kanes have finally won, Robert. It's over. My father, a man I had always seen as a pillar of strength, just nodded, his face buried in his hands. Seeing them so broken did something to me. My anger at Delia, the fury that had driven me for so long, vanished. It was replaced by a fierce, burning need to protect my family. I would not stand by and watch Silas Kane tear us apart. I looked at Delia. Her face was stained with tears, but as her eyes met mine, I saw the same fire ignite within her. The petty fights, the years of jealousy, it all seemed so small now. We weren't just sisters anymore. We were soldiers in the same war. No, I said, my voice cutting through the despair. I walked to her side, a gesture that shocked everyone, including myself. We are not losing our home. For the first time in our lives, we were a united front, and it felt surprisingly strong. Mark gave us a proud, determined smile. We can't fight him on the contract, he said, taking charge. It's too perfect. A court would give him the house. So we have to find something else. We need leverage. We need to find a secret he doesn't want anyone to know. It was a desperate, impossible idea. How could a broken family like ours find a weakness in a powerful man like Silas Kane? Find what? My father asked hopelessly. The man is untouchable. He has no weaknesses. Where would we even begin to look? Mark's gaze fell on Delia. She was no longer just the cause of our problems. She was now our only source of information. Delia, you met with him, Mark said gently. You were in his office. Think hard. Did you notice anything unusual? Hear a name? See something he tried to hide? Delia squeezed her eyes shut, replaying the memory of making her deal with the devil. We all watched, holding our breath. His office was very clean, she began slowly. Almost empty. He was very private. But there was one thing on his desk. She opened her eyes, a flicker of clarity cutting through her fear. He had a little black book. A leather ledger. He wrote in it while I was there, and he never let it out of his reach. I saw the name he wrote down. I recognized it from a news story about a local judge. A judge's name. The room fell silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. It was the silence of a secret being unlocked. This wasn't just about a bad loan anymore. This was about crime. This was the weapon we were looking for. What was the judge's name? Mark asked instantly, his phone already in his hand. Delia's voice was stronger now, fueled by a purpose. Miller. Judge Miller. I saw his picture in the paper. He's involved in some big project for the city. Mark's fingers tapped furiously on the screen. A moment later he looked up, his face pale. Judge Miller is the head of the city planning committee, he announced. He has the final say on the new waterfront development project. A project worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The pieces of the puzzle slammed together, forming a dark and ugly picture. Silas Kane wasn't a finalist for that contract. He was buying it. The ledger wasn't just for debts. It was a list of powerful people he controlled. That little book was the key to his entire crooked empire. We have to get that book, I heard myself say. The idea was insane, a fantasy born from desperation. But as soon as I said it, I knew it was our only path forward. With that ledger, we wouldn't just save our home. We would have power over him. Absolutely not, my father immediately said, his voice shaking. It is too dangerous. If Silas Kane catches you trying to steal from him. He couldn't bring himself to finish the sentence. We all knew what a man like that was capable of. I have to, Delia insisted, standing up. For the first time, her voice held no trace of selfishness. I caused all of this. I was weak and greedy, and I put you all in danger. I won't let you lose everything for my mistakes. I will go myself. I reached out and grabbed her hand, a gesture I hadn't made since we were small children. No, you won't, I said firmly. You won't go alone. In that moment, looking at the sister I thought I hated, all I felt was a fierce, unbreakable bond. We'll go together. Mark looked at the two of us, a determined alliance forged in the ruins of our family. Okay, he said, accepting the dangerous reality. If we are doing this, we need a flawless plan. Delia, tell us everything. The building's layout, the security, the number of guards. Everything you remember. Delia's mind was sharp now, focused on the mission. A calculated look came into her eyes. His office is on the top floor. On weeknights, there's only one guard in the lobby, she began. Then she looked at me, a daring plan forming. The building uses a specific cleaning service, the same one our old apartment building used to use. 1 week later, Delia and I stood in the shadows across the street from the Kane Enterprises building. We were dressed in the dark gray uniforms of the cleaning crew, our hearts beating a frantic rhythm against our ribs. This was it. 23 days had become one night, one chance. Mark was our eyes and ears, parked a block away and speaking to us through tiny earbuds. Delia's plan was risky, but brilliant. She walked into the lobby holding a messy bag of takeout food, pretending to be a confused delivery driver. While the guard was distracted by her act, I slipped through the shadows and swiped the copied keycard for the service elevator. The top floor was eerily silent, a palace of glass and steel. I found his office door, the gold letters of his name shining in the dim light. My hands shook as I held the keycard to the lock. It beeped green. The door clicked open. I was in the lion's den. The office was just as Delia had described. On the huge empty desk sat the small, black leather book. It was waiting there for me. It felt too easy. A cold wave of fear washed over me. This had to be a trap. My revenge, our family's hope, was about to backfire. Just as I reached for the book, the door creaked open behind me. I froze, my blood turning to ice. I turned slowly, expecting to see Silas Kane's cruel smile. But it wasn't him. It was my father. He stood there, his face etched with a sorrow I had never seen before. Dad, I whispered, my voice choked with confusion. What are you doing? You have to leave. He held up a hand. I couldn't let you and your sister clean up the mess my generation made, he said quietly. The feud with the Kanes started with my father. It ends with me. I made my own deal with him, my father confessed, his voice breaking. I called Silas. I offered him my entire retirement fund, everything we have, in exchange for that book and your sister's contract. He thought it was a pathetic, final surrender. He agreed to meet me here to sign. Then he looked at me, and a small, brave smile touched his lips. What he doesn't know, my father whispered, tapping a small button on his shirt, is that the police are listening to every single word of this conversation. In that moment, my father was not a failure. He was the bravest man I had ever known. When Silas Kane walked in moments later, he walked right into a trap far better than the one I had set for my sister. The police moved in, the evidence from the wire and the ledger undeniable. Our family was finally safe. Our home was ours. My quest for revenge on my sister had started with a stolen speech. But it ended with my family, united and whole, ready to write a new chapter. We had faced the monster from our past together, and together we had won. We hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, please give this video a like and share it with someone who loves a good revenge story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.